So here we are at the end of May, and how is the season going? What is the market doing at the moment? Well, I've seen a few people on the internet and on YouTube saying that the sales are picking up and everything's getting a bit more buoyant and people are buying this and buying that. Unfortunately, that's not what I'm seeing. So I'm not saying that that's not correct. It might well be up in other parts of the country, but I'm not seeing that down here in Cornwall. We are still pretty flat on sales. I'm selling ones and twos here and there, but nothing anywhere near like we should be seeing at this time of the year. Now, it's a funny time of the year for us because as we're going into later into May, people aren't really buying caravans at this time of year normally. I generally see a bit of a lull here because it's in the middle of people using their caravans. They're thinking about using them. They're not really thinking about changing. I'm not saying that happens all the time, but we do expect to see a little bit of a lull at this time of year. But it's kind of come on the back of another lull. And when I look back at last year's figures, we're certainly down on what we were. Now, the reason for this, I still think it's the cost of living crisis and with what's going on in the market. Everyone's just keeping hold of their pennies and they're not spending them on things that are, you might say frivolous. They're not, I mean, it's not, a holiday is a good thing to take and it is nice to have a newer caravan, but I think they're just either holding back and waiting to see what happens so that they need those funds for something else, or just not bothering at all and getting out of the market. Now, talking of getting out of the market, I am seeing unprecedented amounts of phone calls and people coming in wanting to sell their caravan, and that's still happening. I had several phone calls last week with high-end products that people wanted to sell. So because I'm seeing an influx of caravans wanting to be sold to us, that only means that they're then going back out into the market if we don't want to buy them because we got a yard full of stock. And we're finding it hard to move the stuff on that we've got already. And I'm saying no to pieces of stock that I would normally be biting people's hands off for, stuff, real bread and butter stuff for us. But if I've already got two or three of them that I can't sell, then there's no point buying them. I also think that the prices are still pretty high. I think we've had this bubble that I think is bursting now, but it's not like a kind of a quick bubble that's been happening after COVID, like everyone says, for 2 years and then it's popping. I think it's been going on since 2008 and 2009, where we've had influx of inflated prices. When I first started, we were selling Swifts and you could buy one for around about 12,500, 13,000 pounds new. That's now not the case. Obviously, entry level stuff's 25 up. And I think the ability for people to buy those products in relation to their wages and their income just isn't the same. So as my as I saw the prices go up from 2010, then I saw the sales go down to the point where it wasn't viable anymore. And I still think that is the case. The issue with that is because the new ones are so high, I think that that's dragging the second-hand value up as well. And I think the whole system needs a bit of a reset. I think it needs to kind of crash and then start again. So some of the vans I've got down there pre-owned are, I would say when I'm looking at them, and I'm looking at not the Glasses Guide anymore, we use the National Caravan Guide. When I'm looking at what they're saying they're worth, I still look at that product and think, I think it's, in today's market, it's not worth that kind of money. So we need to be getting them in at a lower rate than what it says in the book so that we can sell them a bit lower. That may stimulate the market, but that needs to happen everywhere. And I just don't think that is going to happen. So I am trying to buy product in at a lower cost below book. And that might sound a bit harsh to the people that are trying to sell it. But I think that's where we are at the moment, is I need to be getting them in below book so that I can sell them below book and get the price on the screen a bit more attractive. So I had a Conqueror in here that looked, I had a look in the book and it was 14,000. And to me, it was kind of an 11,000 pound caravan. So that's, I think, where we need to reset the system and try and get these inflated prices back down to somewhere that is more acceptable for the kind of people that want to buy those kind of things. Now, caravanning, I think, has changed completely. I think it used to be a cheap way of getting out into the countryside. You buy a caravan for a couple of £1,000 and you go and put it in a field somewhere. And they have no electric and all that kind of thing. Now, obviously, those days are gone. When you're looking at these technological marvels with CAN bus systems and touchscreens, this and everything like that, that's in the modern caravans, and you're looking at 45, 50,000 pounds for some of the top end stuff. Obviously, that's a world away from where the caravanning used to be. So I think that's also not helping at all, is the way that customers actually want their caravans to behave, and I just don't think it's sustainable. I just don't think these prices can keep going up and we can keep on adding more stuff to these caravans. So I mean, time will tell. I could be completely wrong, and hopefully next year I'm selling caravans left, right and centre. But I don't see where the people that to buy those products are going to come from. I think in 2008, when we had the bit of a crash there, I think that's an understatement, and then we had the baby boomers that were ready to downsize their houses that they bought for not much money 20 or 30 years ago, and all of a sudden they were worth a lot of money. They were downsizing, and they had a disposable income to go and spend on caravans and motorhomes and things like that. And now I think they were the people that got us over the last issue we had in 2008, when Swift were struggling to sell caravans because everything crashed, and they kind of dragged us out of that. I can't see where those baby boomer saviors are in the future. I mean, like I say, you can't see into the future. Something might happen, I don't know. But I can't see where that influx of kind of usable cash is to spend on these things. And back then, like I said, it was they were a lot cheaper. So that's my worry going forward, is that I think that the whole market is going to have a reset. I can't see where the next kind of, I know you could say we're in a trough now. I can't see where the next peak is going to be. But maybe it's hard to see that when you are in a trough, and it's difficult to kind of peek over the horizon and see where the next batch of sales is coming from. And I hope I'm wrong, but I think we will probably see, as we get later into the season, when there's lots of dealers that have got, there's still 2024 stock. There's a lot of 2025 stock out there because people aren't buying. As the finance companies start to want their money back on that kind of stock, and also then as the manufacturers start asking for new orders going into 2026, I think at the very least, I think we'll see some dealers stop selling new, because there's no point adding fuel to that fire by putting more stock in at 2026 if you can't sell the 24s and the 25s. So unless there's a massive influx of customers into the market that are buying these caravans, I think we're going to see at least, I would have said, some dealers stopping selling new. At the very worst, we're going to see some dealers stopping trading, because when you have to pay all that money back to the finance houses, it's quite a hard thing to do. So again, hope I'm completely wrong, and that we don't see that happening. But I think there needs to be, like I said, a reset of dealers and a reset of the market. It might be that there's there's 3 or 4 big dealers that survive, but I think that the amount of dealers we've had all selling new, all trying to vie for that market, which is fantastic when there's lots of people buying, but it's not so good when there's not so many people buying. So I think we're going to see some issues there. I'm not sure about manufacturers. They can diversify and do a few other things. I still think we may well see a big casualty as as the sales slow down, and the amount of there's a big pie of customers that are out there, and as that starts to reduce, there's only a certain amount that are going to go to one manufacturer or another. So I wouldn't predict that something's going to happen, but I'd be very surprised if it didn't. And like I said, could be completely wrong. Hopefully that's not the case, and the sales pick up. But yeah, I'd love to be optimistic and think that the over the horizon is this massive insurge of people buying caravans, but I can't see it myself. And to the point where I'm actually restructuring here what I'm doing. When sales are slow and down, you start to look at what's going on in the business, and I can see things that aren't quite working so well. So I'm going to be restructuring here to try and weather the storm and make the most out of what's going on. So that's in the future, and we'll see what happens there. As we go into the next few months, it's funny for us because we're getting to the end of our selling season. Like I said, you'd like to think that your sales are through the winter and then through the beginning of the season. As you get into May, June, July, people are starting to think, well, I'm out using my caravans now, I'm not going to start changing it because I've got things booked and I don't want all that palaver, unless they really have to. So especially if you've got new, I would, if dealers have got new and they've got lots and lots of stock sat there on the forecourt, the chances of selling it now, between now and September, when the finance companies start to want their consolidation and their products being paid off, then I would have thought if you've got a lot of stock now, you're probably going to have a lot of stock by the end of the year. Some will go out ones and twos, but I can't see it in big numbers. There'll be some more heavy discounts going on, so that as dealers start to try to clear their portfolios to get move stock on, there'll be some more heavy discounting going on, I would have thought, just to clear them, so you don't have to pay the finance on them if they stay on the finance line. So I say that's a bit of doom and gloomy. I'm sorry about that, but that's how I see it. I will say how I see it. If it all picks up and everything goes lovely, then I'll be the first to do a video on how great things are going. If you want to sell your caravan, again, you're probably going to be struggling if you're not part exchanging and getting something else. That's a little bit different. But even then, if you've got, if a dealership has got several of your caravans, the money you're going to get offered is going to be fairly low against that. And I know they're going to want to sell a new one, but if they've already discounted the new ones by a few £1,000s, then they haven't got the room to give you a good chunk of money on your part exchange. So you might be disappointed what you're being offered for a part exchange, but then that's relative because the new one should be coming down. If you're trying to sell something without part exchanging it and selling it to a dealer or into the market, again, we're being offered so much stock at the moment. You'll either just be look, we're not buying anything at the moment because we've got a yard full of stock that we can't move, or the prices are going to be significantly lower than what the book prices are. And if you bought it before the pandemic, so 2017-18, that still might be viable because you've had it a long time and you've got your use out of it. That's not a problem. But if you did buy it in the peak, then it's going to be a bit of a bitter pill to swallow, I would have said. But if you want to sell it, that's what we've got to do. You've got to take it, or you can try it on the private market, but again, that's flooded with stock. It's generally overvalued because people have gone to the dealers to get to sell them, and then we're offering silly prices effectively, and so they put it on the market at what they would like for it. So if you are buying privately, just be a bit careful with that. Make sure that do a bit of price checking around the market, just to make sure that you're not paying inflated prices. And please do my course if you want to know what to look for. That means you've got access to me if you wanted to ask a few questions about a specific caravan and maybe get a bit of a price check on it to see if you're right or not. I've helped a few people out this week not buy caravans that that were overpriced. So it's the best £10 they spent, I would have said, because it saved them thousands. So that's myidealcaravan.co.uk. Go and have a look at that. And I'll leave it there, I think, for a second. I say sorry about the waffling on. I've taken advantage of a quiet time in this bank holiday where I've got no beeping and no one reversing around. So see you next time. I will, this time next month, I'll do another one, and hopefully I'll have a little bit more positive news. But at the moment, yeah, it's still a little bit flat out there. Oh, don't forget to like, subscribe. I'm getting fed up saying that. You all know that anyway, so don't worry about that. Just do it if you want. Okay, see you next time. Bye.